Just wanted to confirm. Wasn't quite sure how to go about it.
About what?
About how to ask the question.
Oh. People listening aren't going to know what you're talking about.
Oh.
Leave it to mystery.
Yeah, for real.
Sometimes you don't get all the answers. Isn't
Not-
that something we've learned through some movies we've been watching? No? Sometimes there is no resolution.
You're trying too hard to tie it in.
What's up, guys? My name is John.
And this is a show where two lifelong friends with not much in common try to get a little bit
Closer. Very good. Should talk more.
Did
We should talk more. You just said this is a show. This
Oh,
is
yeah.
We Should Talk More, guys. Welcome back.
Yeah.
Sit down. Have a drink. We're having drinks.
Yep. Cheers.
1 second.
Clink, clink.
Cheers.
Because it's a special occasion this episode. But before we get into that, I forgot to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Josh Cornell. I'm out here wearing my festive fall outfit. Gonna wear this for the rest of fall, every single day. Any pictures you see of me this fall season?
With the same.
Same outfit.
Nice.
No, not changing.
Me too.
Wow.
My
What a
fall,
disgrace.
my fall outfit is also my spring and summer outfit.
I see. But it's a special occasion
It is a special occasion.
because we're talking about Before Midnight.
We're closing the loop on the Before Trilogy.
No,
Very exciting.
because it's John's birthday this week. By the
Yes.
time you're listening to this,
It'll
at
be on
least.
Friday, November 5th. So make sure to buy me a gift. You have time while you're listening to this.
Wish him a happy birthday.
Buy me a gift, though.
And with that, I got a surprise that I'll save for John at the end of the show, as in after the show.
After the show, gift.
After the show gift.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. Well, we're recording this on November 2nd, right before my birthday.
We are not recording this on November 2nd.
No, we are.
No, bro, it's October 14th,
no,
you idiot.
No. This is we record these live, and when you guys listen to these episodes, you're listening to them live.
Guys, if you are watching the video,
You gotta update your watch, bro.
check out my watch. It says October 14th. Upside down, but it says
I know,
October 14th.
It's kind of a shame that your watch is like fucked up like that. You should take it back to
Apple support.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll try it out. Oh, my phone too, though. My phone.
Yeah, it's like a whole Apple bug.
Check that out. April 14th.
April 14th?
April 14th.
Oh, okay. So we're actually backlogged these episodes before we even started the podcast.
That's right.
Or we're recording this from the future and sending
From
it
the
back.
future.
Yeah, that's a little more exciting.
It is. Well, can we get into it? As in our coffee hour?
Yeah, it's coffee hour time.
Yes.
But we're drinking some beers. I wish I kept the can. Do you remember what this? It's a Sam Adams Wicked Pale Ale, something like that.
Yeah, it was.
Or Wicked IPA.
It was a IPA. It was a wicked IPA.
Yeah,
That's what it was.
Yeah, it's like a fall themed drink they have. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know what makes it wicked, but it is an IPA. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Is
And-
it like fruity wicked? I think I bought it because it had fruity in the name. Or
that-
juicy.
That could be it.
Yeah, because I'm a juicy guy. I like fruit.
I'm not a big fan
Of this or of juice?
of juice or IPAs,
Oh, okay.
but I can tolerate it.
Yeah,
I'll get through the whole thing.
I don't like IPAs that much either, but it is pretty good.
It is. So tell me about your week. How'd it go?
This week has been wonderful. This week has been the best week of my life.
Really?
No. But
Okay.
the best week of this year, I would say. Like, so many great things have happened, and I'm not gonna divulge my personal life, but the week before was probably one of the worst weeks of my life. So
how
to
do you
somehow,
set them up next to each other?
or sorry, the worst weeks of the year.
Yes,
It was like
I
maybe,
understand
maybe
that.
not
all
last week,
within
2
the-
weeks ago. 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, gotcha.
But like all within this month, it's like I've hit the lowest of this year and then now the highest. It's incredible.
how? Give some examples without having to be too personal.
No, I don't think I can.
Damn it.
But for the highs, like I finally and I think I mentioned on the podcast too, which is cool. I finally got a job on a creative department at my work, and a promotion to a manager on that department, which is awesome.
Congrats.
And not only that,
There's more.
this week me and Josh, or so now we're being honest that we are filming this in October, but this week we saw a podcast but outside. They're my favorite podcast. They're really the only podcast that I listen to and actually watch their video. We not only watched them live, we freaking sat on their table and spoke to them. And the co-host Cole took a picture with me and sent it to a famous Viner who people in high school used to say I look like. Just like
someone I was totally unfamiliar with. Nonetheless,
they're all these internet like micro celebrities.
They are.
But it's such an exciting week, and we had so much fun that day. That was a fun day.
It was a great time.
Yeah.
And not only that, cannot forget, me and John had our date on Saturday.
I completely forgot to mention that. That was going to be the main subject to talk about on this episode. I think we said last week, like when we come back, we'll share the details of our date. So we can talk. Why don't you tell them about our date?
Yeah, it went all right. It went all right.
I thought it was nice.
Yeah, I had
you know what? Our date, we had homework on our date.
Yeah, we did
This
have
episode,
homework on our date for this episode
Yeah.
specifically. We watched the movie together before midnight.
Yeah.
We went out for Mexican food first at a very great Mexican restaurant in Kragstad, New Jersey, I think it was called.
I don't know
La
how to say
Fortaleza. Wonderful food, wonderful drinks, wonderful environment.
Yeah, it's great.
And we had a great time.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
We'll post a photo from this date, perhaps when this episode comes out.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even think about that. But yeah, that works out well.
Yeah.
And then we came back and watched Before Midnight. Actually dozed off at the last 5 minutes.
Oh, did you?
I think I told you about this, but you gave me a brief summary, and then I rewatched it
Oh,
again.
the part you missed. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, you asked me.
I rewatched it this morning, and I was like, you know what? The way that you summarized it was not at all how I understood it as to what it actually is.
What was the scene that you missed? The final scene?
The final scene.
Oh, when they were
Outside.
and they
like
do like
the
the fake conversation, like
Yep, exactly. So we'll talk about it later, but I'll mention it then too.
But yeah, it was fun. This has been a really fun week. I've seen Josh the most that I've seen him in a long time in 1 week, and I will be seeing him again this Saturday. So it's jam packed.
Yeah, this weekend you're going back to back apple picking.
Yeah, I'm going back to back apple / pumpkin picking. It's exciting.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's exciting.
Get the fall plans. Getting into it.
Now ask me about my week.
How was your week?
My week was pretty good. I saw you. We went out to podcast but outside. You know what? We had the same fucking week. Outside, I didn't get a promotion though.
How did you like podcast but outside though?
Oh yeah, we didn't speak about that. Yeah, it was they got a new fan.
They got a new fan.
They got
I'm
a new
happy.
fan. I'll say that.
I heard you laughing. That made me happy. So I'm like, I hate when you introduce something to somebody and it's like you could tell like
they don't enjoy it as much.
Yeah, or it's like like let's say I invited you, like I'm not expecting you to like it, but I heard you laughing and made me smile. I'm like, we're having a good time.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
Podcast but outside was genuinely funny, and I had that. I figured they would be. I had no I don't know the phrase I was trying to say. Cut this out. Going on.
Expectations?
I had no not no expectations.
Or like no negative expectations?
Yeah, but I mean there's another way to say it.
I don't know.
I had no doubts.
Yeah.
Something
that works.
like that.
Yeah, no doubts.
No doubts that
No
they would
doubt.
have been as good as they were.
Yeah.
And they excelled.
Yeah.
It was great. Anyway, I genuinely enjoyed it.
And what else did you do this week?
Went on a date or two. Won't have to get into that. They went well. Not that they went bad. It's just I don't
I don't need to divulge.
I don't want to overshare.
Yeah.
And I worked. Honestly, there wasn't much.
Yeah.
I don't think outside of I guess we got plans to record with another podcaster group,
Yeah.
and we did that last week. We talked to them about it, and we're planning an episode to do on their podcast this coming Thursday. And by the time you're listening to this, I bet it's already out. We can drop it in the show notes, perhaps. And then we have an episode a few weeks down the line that they'll join us.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a lot of cool stuff. We have an episode with a friend of the show. I've mentioned a few times, Alex Aranio, who also host his own brand, Anabolic Italian. I almost forgot.
Yeah, the Anabolic Italian.
So we'll have the Anabolic Italian on the podcast. That'll be cool, just to learn about his whole stuff and like what inspired him. So we have some cool stuff down the line.
Yeah, so if you're interested in Italian food, if you're interested in healthy Italian eating, if you're interested in cooking, or if you're interested in being a influencer as a cooker or a cook, sorry, on Instagram, perhaps join us.
Yeah. We'll give you the tips. Alex, he'll probably be listening to our insight on that, on everything you just said. Like, we're kind of the experts on that.
Yeah, we are always the experts, no matter what episode or topic. You come to listen to us.
So Alex is probably not going to talk that much because we'll have a lot to say.
Yeah, I think he's coming in with the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're really flipping the script with how we're doing interviews on this podcast, all right?
Yeah.
If you're a first-time listener, we are the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you come for us. Or they come for us.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a first-time listener, you will be coming for us.
Wonderful.
I might have to watch the way I'm phrasing that.
That's right. Can we get into it?
Yeah, let's get right into it.
So we're talking about Before Midnight, which is the third installment in the Before Trilogy. So we've already talked about Before Sunrise and Before Sunset. If you haven't listened to that, go ahead, pause this, come back to us.
Definitely watch the movies. Watch the movies. They're great.
Oh, yeah, do it all today. So you can come back to this episode later tonight. Watch the 2 movies, listen to the other 2 podcasts, watch the 3rd movie, and come back here.
Yes.
If you don't do that, then I'll be very disappointed. Anyway, first movie as a summary now that you just came back.
Oh, yeah. Like, if you haven't watched it, pause the podcast right now and then go watch it and come back. So
I assume that you were smart enough to know that.
Well, we're going to, like, give them a verbal pause. Okay, welcome back.
It's great to have you. I know you did your homework. Otherwise, you wouldn't disappoint. Never mind. So, first episode of first installment in the Before Trilogy was all about how Jesse and Celine, they met each other and they fell perhaps in love, or at least they opened themselves to seize that opportunity.
Very special experience together.
Yeah, and it was very fleeting. Mm-hmm. And then they rekindle it, or perhaps put in the effort to rekindle it in the second movie when they finally reconnect after 9 years. Now, if you haven't heard us talk about it before, these movies are spaced out 9 years in time, in the way that they directed the film and the way that the storyline progresses. So now we're in the second movie. They reconnected. Towards the end of it, you can see that spark starts to rekindle, and they ultimately made that impulsive decision to skip a flight and spend some more time together.
Yeah.
Even though they're both in a relationship at this time.
Very bad.
Naughty. Now that's all the background you need. We can get into some plot summary of this third movie. Oh, and I guess before we get into that, after the plot summary, John, if you want to provide the outline of how we're going to do this.
Yes. So, if this is your first episode, which I hope it's not,
they did their homework.
You guys have done your homework, but for all our film review discussion type videos, we're going through 5 main subtopics, like as we discuss the film after talking about like the summary. So the first thing we do is we talk about the plot. There we just share our thoughts and also talk about our favorite scenes and why they resonated with us. From there we'll talk about themes, just the themes that we caught throughout the film, anything that resonated with us that we thought was like relevant to share. Then we'll dive into the characters. For these, we've specifically been talking about Jesse and Celine, but if we're watching any movie, we'll talk about what other characters are in those movies. Dive into them, talk about their main traits, stuff that we found interesting. Then we'll do a little bit discussion on the filmmaking, like the cinematography, the actual like script, maybe how things were filmed, all that jazz. And then finally, we'll just share our final thoughts and give a rating out of 10.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Well, let's get into it. So this movie was all about, started in Peloponnese, Greece. Jesse and Celine, we find out, after Jesse drops off his son at the airport to go back to the States and be with his ex-wife. We find out that he is married. No, he's not married. He's dating and living and has two kids with, you guessed it.
Are they not married?
Celine. No, they mentioned it that they're not married.
Oh, I completely
That
missed
they don't plan on getting married.
Mm.
Yeah, so they're dating and they have kids. And they have a whole life together now. After meeting 18 years ago, not seeing each other for 9 years, rekindling and deciding to skip a flight, perhaps having sex while in a relationship and breaking their loyalty, they start dating and they have two blonde kids, two blonde girls.
Beautiful babes.
Yeah, they are beautiful. So now they're out on vacation and we just get a very long drawn out 4 or 5 different scenes.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Just a lot of conversations. We do get some more characters in this one where they're sitting at a dining they're sitting over dinner talking about relationships pretty much. Then we find as the movie progresses, they keep coming back to this core issue that they're having. This issue about whether they should move to the United States or stay in Paris because Jesse wants to be more present in his son's life. And his son is all the way out in the States, in Chicago. He doesn't feel like he's there for him enough. He feels like he's very disconnected from him. And that's how they start out the film, by talking at the airport before seeing him off. And so you see that Celine doesn't want to leave because she wants to focus on her career, which is very true to her character about being independent and being true to who she is and wanting to grow. So we see that conflict continue to come back and back until it ultimately leads to her get into a huge argument with Jesse at the hotel room at the last scene. And she says, I don't love you.
Yeah.
Then she storms out and Jesse's in the hotel room by himself. And he decides to go outside and make up a story that he's coming back from the future as from a letter of 80-year-old Celine or 82-year-old Celine describing how wonderful this night was for her, having the best sex in her life. Something like that, I don't know. And then Celine gets all upset. When you told me this, I thought you mentioned like this letter actually went very well. Like she was very happy with the letter.
But doesn't she like goes along with the joke that he's doing?
Oh, she does. She does.
That's what I meant.
But she then like points out like, you keep making up these stories. You're dismissing the issue. I'm unhappy. Let me be unhappy.
Yeah.
You're not living in a reality or something. And then Jesse says I think the drop the mic line in the film to say, yeah, this reality is not perfect, but that's real.
Mm-hmm.
Something along those lines. And then they have like 30 seconds of not talking. And then they continue with going along with the false narrative.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of background.
That's the plot, baby. How did you feel about it?
Well,
the story.
We see a lot of the true struggles of love now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of this one.
Yeah.
The first two, we're seeing them fall in love, or at least very infatuated with one another and wanting to spend more and more time together or trying to make the most of that moment. So we saw in that first film, they knew that they only had 24 hours together. How much can they do within 24 hours to get to connect with each other? The second film was all about trying to rekindle the spark that they had from that first time. And then they saw some ugliness from it, but they made that impulsive decision to continue. You don't really get it. You're left at a cliffhanger at some point at the end of the film, but you get the implication that they made the decision to say, fuck it, we're not going back our separate ways and we're going to spend more time together. Now we're seeing the consequences of those decisions.
Yeah.
we're now seeing that they are trying their best to live in a relationship, live with what love is, and you realize how difficult love is.
Mhm. And I liked that. Like I liked how the film, like it did. I feel like it felt the most different from all the other ones because like you said, the other ones, I feel like they both have that sense of like the characters are like they have that sense of excitement, and it's like you're in that honeymoon phase of being like all in love or infatuated, but they still at those points like don't fully know what it's like to be together, to like long term like date. So I liked how this film kind of felt like it felt like a disconnected like epilogue where you see what finally happens through all that, but like it's in such a real way. Like I liked how it wasn't perfect, but you see like signs of like you see that there is love there. Like they have love, but it's like a real love, because love as you get older it gets so complicated, and you see like how much their lives have sort of changed, and it with his kids and now her career, it's sort of just more complicated elements in their lives that kind of pulls them apart, but it feels so real. Like I feel like this one really felt like the natural, like I like that they went this way. Like it felt real to me.
Yeah, and I wouldn't dismiss the other two as not being too real. I think it was very true to the time that they had together, and not having much time together, you like feel like madly obsessed with the other person.
Yeah.
Knowing that like the less you have, the more you want.
But this is, I guess, just like a real relationship now that we're seeing is what I mean. Like it's like,
So
yeah, now they're actually like together.
Now that we do see it, we see all the unpleasant experiences that come along with it, and it's frustrating at times to watch. But you see that it is true, where they have made this decision to be partners together in life. And with that, that means having to work out your own individual goals in life too. And right here, we're seeing Jesse's goal is to be with his son and be more present, and Celine's goal is to advance her career. And those opportunities are on two separate places geographically.
Yeah.
And so this is the reality.
Yeah.
If you choose to make this partnership with somebody, you have to somehow find a way to reconcile this.
Yeah.
And it could end up in being very ugly, into very ugly conversations, because you're not recognizing each other's needs.
And I like, I feel like this whole movie, like their main argument, the main difference, like that, I feel like that is such an important element that like, if that didn't seem like real or genuine, like the main like difference between them, I feel like the movie wouldn't work. Like it really relies on that difference. And I like how their issue is so complicated. Like I'm sure we'll get into it when we like talk about the argument, but there is no easy solution. It's not like a problem where, let's say, like one person is completely wrong and the other one's right. Even they partially agree with each other on some things. Like with the issue with his son, Celine also agrees that they need to be more present in his life. Like she acknowledges that she wants like that. She hates his ex-wife. Yep. But she also has her own needs, and like it's such a complicated issue that they have, but it feels true to real life, because in real life a lot of problems are not black and white. It's not, this is the right thing, this is the wrong thing. There's like grays to it.
And the one point of frustration I had, but it was very true in the way that their characters like are manifested to who they are, is how they react to the situation. Yeah. Like I think about it as like, well, did you really have to say that? Well, the way that it's directed, they say that because you can kind of see from the first two movies, that's how their characters are. Those are like the values that they live by. And so I can't be upset at the film for making the characters behave like this, but it's frustrating as a viewer to see like, well, what you just said only made the situation 10 times worse than it had to be.
Yeah. But I love that. I love that you said that too, because that just speaks to how, I guess now we're like 3 movies in, but like these feel like these are three-dimensional characters where like they do things, and like you said, like yeah, this is what this person would do. Like I'm not gonna say they wouldn't do that, but I can still feel like why are you doing this? Like, you know.
And I guess like any good movie, you'll find that.
Yeah.
Any good movie, you will find that. And so you find that frustration with these characters, but you know they are just being who they are.
Yeah. Which it feels it's so interesting that they like, you would think, I guess, and sometimes when movies go on this long, like I feel like you could lose track of who these people were, like, but it feels so consistent. Like, I mean, I know when these were coming out, they were 9 years apart, so people who were watching them when they were coming out probably weren't thinking about these things. But we watched these movies like all within the last couple weeks, and like they do feel like consistent people just in different points of their lives. So it's cool. I love that.
And I guess to be a little more specific too as to what characteristics they really carry, is like Jesse's always the one who is believing that he's being the rational one. And Celine does have more feelings to a situation, more emotions to it, and she brings that to the table.
But did you want to touch on some of your favorite scenes here?
Yeah. Why don't you start? Because I only called out one, and I saw you called out two.
Which scene did you call out? Just do you know if we overlapped
in sequence? We didn't overlap. I did that intentionally since I was the second one to fill in the notes.
Okay.
So whichever one comes first in sequence.
All right, cool. So I'll talk about the family dinner, which is like very early on in the film. They have a dinner at who are the people that they're staying with again? Are they just friends that they made in Greece?
Yeah, I think it's family and friends. No, it's all friends. I think a lot of them are friends from Jesse being a publisher.
Yeah, because it seemed like they knew about his work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked this dinner. I think mostly because we finally get new characters, and we finally get people to like bounce off of Jesse and Celine, which I feel was like, it works so well in this scene too, because as they're like all asking questions, you can see like, I think through that scene you can see that Jesse and Celine have a lot of like tension between them. Like as they're drinking, Celine is kind of like laying out some stuff that she's like annoyed with Jesse. They have conversations about sex again, but she talks about how like men are obsessed with sex, and I think Jesse has a line about how to be mad at a man for being horny is to be mad at a frog for being green. And I'm just like, that's
penises.
That's Jesse. That's classic Jesse right there.
Yep.
But the thing that I wrote down that I really liked about this scene is that we see a younger couple.
We do.
We see, outside of Jesse and Celine, we see like another middle-aged couple. And then we see, well, there's two older people there. They're not together. One is a widow, and I think the male there is
the
brother of her husband. Yeah.
I didn't know it was in-laws.
Yeah, because I thought he referred to her husband as his brother, but whatever. They're not together. The older couple.
Yeah.
But I loved that setup because you see like the different relationships in different levels at different points in life.
Yeah.
And like, so touching on the young couple, I love them because they similarly met like in their travels, but then they talk about, oh, we kept in touch with Skype, and like they I think they mentioned like email, and it's just funny because time has passed since we first watched the first movie. So now it's acknowledging now, like, with the internet, I mean, Jesse and Celine could have exchanged phone numbers, but now with things like Skype too, you can really maintain a relationship and like see somebody like on a video call. And especially at this point, when did this come out? Like 2007?
No, 2013.
Oh, you're right, 13.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah, it's not even that
2013.
old. So yeah, I mean that's pretty modern, like well, close to modern. But I like that they added that for that younger couple, and it's like direct contrast to Jesse and Celine. And then you have the middle-aged couple who are like fully infatuated with each other, which is like so different because you're seeing during the conversation Jesse and Celine are not like
disconnected.
Yeah, there's a disconnect. But then you see this couple that are around their same age, like all like touching and like whatever. Which I found so like it's just a nice parallel.
It's a good contrast, yeah.
And then finally you have the older folks there, and I just liked I think there was a quote from the older woman, and I think it ties in a lot with the whole idea of like time and memory that is always like brought up in these films. But she talks about losing her husband and trying to remember his face at like every day she wakes up in the morning, and then just talks about how it's starting to fade, like her memories of him how she remembered him is like starting to fade over time. So I just found that this whole scene so interesting to like set up like where Jesse and Celine are in their relationship, and also like bounce them off with like other people in different points.
Yeah, and I am like very happy you like analyzed it as such, because like I wasn't really thinking about it the same. And not that I didn't not that it isn't true, or not that there that it wasn't designed like that. I didn't realize those intentions were really laid out that way, about how like we really have these different people in different stages in their life. My really focus point when I was watching this scene is like, we're at a table of love.
Yeah, and that's really what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
just a ton of different couples sharing their different experiences
Yeah.
with how love is for them.
mm-hmm. No, I really liked it. I found that whole conversation is like one of my favorites. Like just all the stuff they were talking about.
Yeah,
I like that.
there was so much.
Yeah,
There's so much that they dived into. So
what about your favorite scene?
So my favorite scene was the last long scene at the hotel room.
Is this the argument?
Yeah.
Okay, that was my second.
No, was it? Oh, outside the hotel. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, outside the hotel. Why don't we do yours and then do the outside?
Okay.
I think it will just make more sense for the listeners.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, so is yours is the final scene.
The final scene.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So the other scene that I just wrote a bit about was the argument in the hotel. Man, there's so much to unpack about what they discuss here. The main thing that I really liked from this scene is just how I mentioned earlier how complex the argument is, where there really is no easy solution. But I also love how the argument is like written and like structured in that hotel room, because like they're in that room and they have like an argument, and then there's a point where it gets things calm down, and they start sharing like memories, and they're laughing, and it seems like things are getting better.
They're about to have sex,
only for them to go back into the argument, and when they go back they reveal even worse things. So it's like you get the bad, and then it teases you with like things might be better, and then it stabs you with like the and it's like in that last part of the argument where you learn that Jesse definitely like cheated on Celine at some point, and that Celine doesn't love Jesse. There's a lot that's said there that is like awful, and I love that too, though, because I feel like when you have arguments with people that you love, or like even your best friends, like, well, you and I don't have really bad arguments like that, but like if we did, like we know so much about each other, like and in those bad moments is when you reveal like what will hurt the person the most. Like you say the worst possible thing even though you might not mean it. So that whole scene is so like crazy.
That's true. And like you don't think about it too much as a level-headed person like myself, being in a heated argument like that. You're supposed to laugh.
You're being serious.
It's a touch of sarcasm, man. Touch of sarcasm. You can't hear it in my voice.
No.
Do I not give off the voice of sarcasm?
You gotta work on it.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I get that all the time. People are always like, Josh, I never know when you're serious or not. Like you're making these jokes, but the jokes are so dry.
It's your tone.
Yeah, the situation gets so heated.
Yeah.
And so to genuinely not be in a heated situation all that often, you fail to forget like how people will say things that they truly don't mean.
Yeah.
Or say things that they do mean in the worst possible way.
Yeah.
And so this is where it was like a point in the film where I'm looking at Jesse like, why would you even think about saying something like that?
Yeah.
When he's like, what was it that he said in response?
I wrote it down. Yeah, where
down.
she accuses him of cheating, and he doesn't deny it. He just, I think when she first says it, he doesn't say anything, and then he says like, "Oh, I don't want to be in a relationship where two people own each other." It's like you're not denying what she said. So yes, you cheated on her.
You just amplified it.
Yeah,
you
it's like he made it worse.
He's like blaming it on her for having chose to cheat.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like what I kept thinking about Jesse in this scene is like he really is like gaslighting her. Like he's totally gaslighting her. Especially with the whole idea that he has like, oh, let's have a rational conversation. but for him having like, and I like that she calls him out on this, because like saying like, let's say if we're in an argument, I'm like, oh, let's have a rational conversation. I'm making it seem like you're being irrational.
Exactly.
It's like an indirect way of saying that. So he's being very like passive aggressive and like avoidant of the truth and like owning up to himself. I've really stopped liking Jesse at this point.
Did too. You stole one of my bullets for the characters. I called him the gaslighter.
Oh, did you? Yeah, we could bring it up again, but yeah, he's not great.
He isn't.
Yeah.
Especially not in this scene.
Yeah.
So yeah, that escalates, and then they go outside.
Yeah.
Did you have any other bullet points?
That was pretty much it. I think we touched on it a lot about like the complicatedness of their argument. So yeah, that was it.
Okay. So this outdoor scene after their argument, after Celine storms out and Jesse takes a moment before he walks back outside and talks to her, I slept through it all. But I did rewatch it, of course, in preparation of this. And it wasn't at all as to how I thought it was from John's description.
I don't even remember how I described it.
Maybe I wasn't like putting together the pieces too much either when you described it, but the way that I envisioned it was that he came out with this really beautiful letter. He read off the letter and it was able to make things better.
Oh yeah, I mean, I guess I just didn't like describe the whole scene because like more happens, I guess.
So it is kind of like a sweet letter to some extent, where it's a letter that he wrote as Celine, as her reflecting back on life at the age of 82.
Mm-hmm.
So I already alluded to this earlier in this podcast, but she, throughout the scene, she was going with it a little bit, but she was going with it very unamused.
Yeah.
She was totally unamused as he read off the letter. And then at some point she stops him and says that you're just so far removed from reality right now. You are ignoring what the issue is. You're not responding or addressing anything that we said back there in the room. Did you not listen to anything I said? And then Jesse's thinking like, wow, like, did you really mean what you said? Where she said that she doesn't love him. So in this moment, Jesse still reacts very aggressively, and I get a little worried. In the way that he's coming across and the attitude he's having. But his message here is that love is not always a fairy tale, where it's like filled with continuous happy moments.
Mm-hmm.
And that being imperfect is real. His phrase here, and I wrote it down here and I try to quote it earlier, is, "This is real life and it's not perfect, but it's real."
And how did you feel about that? Because I think there's a line he says earlier in the film. It's when he calls her crazy or something, in the hotel argument. But he says like he's like the only one that could put up with her. Like do you feel
he does say that too?
Yeah, but like do you feel like so their love could be viewed like it is real life. Real love is complicated, but do you feel like he's being genuine, or do you feel like they even like should be together?
Yeah, so like in this point, I'm conflicted because at first when I watched it, he does say during that moment of saying this is real, right before saying that, he says like, you're not gonna find somebody who loves me like I do.
Yeah,
and that's to an extent like gaslighting the situation, where you're distorting it as like I'm the best man you can find.
Yeah.
But at the same so I'm also thinking about how toxic this is. Like you mentioned, should they really be together? They are not. They both have different needs. They are constantly coming at each other, and even at the end of the film, they never address the issue. They just continue with the letter.
Yeah,
that's how they end it. Now, I don't think that that's an answer to them that they should be together, but I do really love it because it shows how true they are to the characters that they've created and developed through this film, and just how challenging love can be out of that.
Yeah.
by the decisions that they've made.
Yeah, definitely.
Because now they've made the decision to take the risk of being together. They have now created this bond, this partnership, without really realizing how they might not actually connect too well.
Yeah.
Because all they know was a one-day experience with one another. Now they find each other with 2 kids and different goals in life and all the challenges that come with it. And maybe they're not meant to be together because they're not able to address those issues.
Yeah. I kind of want to pick your brain. I mean, I have some thoughts on it too, but about what you think happens after this. But do you think we should save that for the very end of this episode?
So they could get a divorce. I think it would be totally fair if they get a divorce.
I think they definitely do. Yeah. I think if they ever brought it back, it would be like 9 years after having like this is their last night together that we're seeing.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that would be best. Because while it ends with the message, I think people could take the wrong message out of this.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Like I think you could view this maybe if you're a little optimistic, but I think you could view this just as seeing them like, I mean, they don't address the problems, but they're still staying together.
Mm-hmm.
In an optimistic view, maybe.
Yeah. So it could be interpreted as, well, look, I'm in an abusive relationship and I'm going to continue to stick through it because love is abusive.
Yeah.
Could be taken to that extreme. Yeah. Because the whole message here is that love is difficult.
Yeah.
And by choosing to be together, you have, or at least this is my interpretation of it, by making that impulsive decision to be together, they're now faced with those consequences of love being difficult.
Yeah.
Now, this is not to say that you shouldn't ever make that decision to be with somebody. You can make it work. Sometimes, even when you make it work well, you'll still get into some pretty nasty fights. Definitely doesn't have to be abusive, but you can still get into some pretty nasty fights. Because you have different needs in life.
Yeah. The thing that I kept thinking about, I wrote it down in like the character section for Jesse, but Jesse has a line where he's like, what do you think's gonna happen? The same thing that always happens, nothing.
Yeah.
And when he said that, like, I thought about that line at the end of the film because all this conflict, all this like terrible things that they say, what comes of it? Nothing. And the movie just ends. Like we don't know what happens, and like part of me thinks that whether they stay together, whether they don't, I feel like whatever issues they have might not ever get resolved. And it kind of just, I guess it made me think of like in real life, there are some problems or like some conflicts that you have that don't have any answers. Like sometimes you'll break up with someone and you'll never know why. Like it's not like a movie where like all the answers are given to you at the end. So I almost liked that they didn't give us anything, but I mean, you always want to know, but it's almost like it's almost more impactful that we don't know, because maybe nothing does happen. Like maybe this moment is just one of many arguments that they have throughout their lives, and issues never get resolved, or they just like continue to spiral. I feel like leaving it that way just is nicer, because we can have this conversation.
Yeah. Which is why the movie's so beautiful, but it's also so unpleasant.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that earlier. Like a lot of the conversation, or especially the arguments, it's hard to watch. It's really hard to watch.
It is so difficult. Even the ending.
Yeah.
I watched the ending again, and I was not happy with it at all.
Yeah.
And then you have the closing credits.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not what John set me up with the expectations for.
I was being optimistic. I was probably also half asleep. But wow, we're almost at an hour. We gotta
steam through the rest.
Yeah.
I really didn't write too much. I know you did. For
just,
themes,
like, on, like,
go through a few
I think
themes.
is most important.
I feel like there's one critical theme here, but there's definitely more that you were able to point out. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I just want to touch on is like parenthood. They talk a lot about Hank, and there's like a quote that Jesse says that he's getting like dragged through his parents' lives, and she's like, isn't that what happens to all of us? So it was just like an interesting thing that they've mentioned in the other films about how parents like fuck you up, and they've mentioned it before, and now they're doing it like inadvertently, but like their lives are pulling Hank like through it. And what else? I mean, I wrote sex. Jesse's obviously obsessed with it. I've mentioned the quote about the frog.
You did.
And yeah, I mean, there's themes of like relationships. You see how Jesse and Celine, like where they are, how they've changed, and you see the other couples at the start of the film, how they're in different like stages and just different types of love. Um, yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I have some other stuff, but nothing that I wrote like too deeply about.
Okay. Yeah, mine is focused on love. This is the only one I wrote here, but I wrote it in a way that it's like now we're closing the arc of love, or at least maybe if we're talking about a fourth film with divorce, you see the death of love,
Yeah,
so you might have another arc to it. But as far as this trilogy goes, we're seeing the closing of that arc
Yeah.
where we saw that moment where they seized the opportunity to fall in love. They didn't quite get there. You saw the moment where they rekindled it, and now we're seeing the moment where we're seeing the consequences. And so I think that's being that we can now look out from a perspective of all three movies together. There's a nice arc to it that I
Yeah.
really enjoyed.
yeah. I definitely agree with that. That this film definitely feels like. 'Cause I guess I was feeling optimistic. I know we spoke about it before, like if there could be another movie, like what that would be like. But watching this, it did feel like the end. Like if they ever did something, I think like we said, like it would be after divorce or something different. But I don't think in terms of their storyline of being in love, like
Mhm.
it does feel like this movie ended at the end of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could have very well have.
Yeah.
And I would love to see what it would be if they were to make another one.
Yeah.
Coming out next year, by the way.
It should if they follow the
The 9 years
Yeah.
time frame. Let's get into the characters.
Sure. Well, I'll just touch on these two things for the sake of time, which is what I want to talk about, because I feel like time is a huge theme in all these movies.
Nice segue.
I noted again how these motherfuckers keep switching perceptions and like opinions on things.
Mhm.
So if you remember in the last Before Sunset, when we spoke about, they had the conversation in the cafe about growing old when they spoke about her grandma.
Mhm.
And Celine at that time was very like she didn't want to grow old because she wanted to accomplish all these things in life. She was like fearful of it, where Jesse was very like casual about it. Like he was not too concerned with not being able to accomplish everything. But now, I think they have this conversation. I'm trying to remember if it was when they were like just walking through town and they went to like a chapel or something. But now Jesse's saying that he wants to, cause he even acknowledges, he says that he wanted to speed up time when he was younger, but now he regrets it because there's so many things that he'll never do or learn. This is almost exactly what Celine was saying. There's so many things that he wants to experience. And he also says that he wants to maintain a sense of passion in his life, which I think is like it is a kind of a through line for Jesse, where like finding his passion, finding what he wants is like a big issue for him. But now I guess as he's getting older, time is becoming a concern too, because he may not have all the time to actually like do that. So he switched, and now he's like he's more concerned about time, like Celine used to be. And now Celine, when they talk about time, she is not in too much of a rush to accomplish all these things, because she's viewing it. She mentions how men, they have so many great men that they compare themselves to, that they've accomplished stuff at certain ages, but women face so many struggles in their lives that most women accomplish things later in life anyways. So she's now in that like sort of optimistic viewpoint, or at least understanding that like she still has time, like her time is not up, like
Mhm.
and I guess I think you see that a lot through her, just through her whole the crux of her issue with wanting to pursue that career. Because I feel like when you think about a lot of people at their age, like making big like jumps for a job, or like having your job be like it just like you can see that it's still like important to her, especially outside of like maintaining a family, maintaining a relationship. Like she still sees like a future, she still wants to do something different, she wants to like explore new paths. So they're both very different in that perspective of time.
Yeah, and their perspectives that they share throughout the film.
Yeah.
And that's the nice thing about these films is that you get those dialogues that you see this uncovered.
Yeah.
You don't really see that too much in other films, I guess. Um, I didn't write too much here. I did mention Jesse being a gaslight.
Yeah.
Definitely big gaslight moments in this film. Big gaslight moments. And what did I write here? Oh, that I find it an interesting contrast where Jesse's a fiction writer, and that's like starkly contrasted with him being grounded in this imperfect reality that they live in. And maybe that's where his escape is into fiction, because he realizes and tries to be very aware
Yeah.
that love, any part of life, is not perfect.
Yeah.
There's no fantasy to it. There's no idealism to it. That there is going to be issues. And he accepts that, and perhaps he escapes from it by fiction writing.
Yeah, I think definitely. You just reminded me early during the family dinner, they're talking about his book, which his second book was about the second movie.
Mm-hmm.
And Celine makes a side comment that the second book didn't include the fact that like they cheated on both of their significant others. Like it didn't include all these complicated issues of his life, that like he had a kid.
Yeah.
It would just like spoke about them having sex like a couple nights in a row, like after him missing his flight. So like, yeah, like his books as reflections of the movies themselves, like are stripped of any of the actual like complications of their lives.
Mm-hmm. So interesting.
Yeah.
So interesting to notice. Yeah, I mean, that first film was all about the first book I'm sure that he published was all about how he had that one great
Yeah.
experience,
Mhm.
that one moment that he couldn't forget.
Yeah.
And like he put it all through a book. Celine, I mentioned here to be uncompromising with her like life decisions that will interfere with her career, which is like sticking truth to many of the values that we've seen
Yeah.
throughout the film. So I think this is still something that I've mentioned earlier in the podcast with those values. But we still see a lot of fragility or a fragile side to her, and having emotions in her response to many of these conversations that they're having, which again is just true to her nature. That's all I got here.
Yeah. I don't know if I had anything else. I feel like I had something extra for Celine. Oh, well, there was just one thing that I thought about that came up in their argument. I guess I'm curious of your thoughts on it, like about their
Okay.
dynamic. She says something about how, which I think is true, maybe, that she has now found like love in her career and like I guess a bit of a direction because she knows where she wants to go. But she's passionate about her work, and she says that like Jesse, this whole like the whole like issue between them is that Jesse feels like he's I guess a smaller part of the relationship, that she like takes up more space because she's like passionate, she's happy, where like Jesse's dissatisfied in life, and that like his whole issue is that he is not the superior one in the relationship.
That's true.
Yeah.
And like she points that out as like, oh, you're really only coming at me in the way that you are because you're jealous.
Yeah, exactly.
With my life. Yeah, poor guy.
Yeah.
Poor guy. I don't know what else to say to that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a interesting dynamic that they're going through now. And it's a good switch, like you called out earlier, with their perspectives and times and how their ambitions in life have changed, and how they keep changing pessimism and optimism attitudes. He is in a little bit of a rut, it sounds like.
Yeah. And I think it's something that even if we don't, well, I guess if we see future like installments of these movies, I feel like he's just his character. Like he's always dissatisfied. Like he has always struggled to. At least a big thing with him is like he's always been trying to find that passion, like always trying to find like his thing. And I don't know if it was the second movie or the first movie, but he talks about how like passions, it's like you go from one passion to another, that you'll never be satisfied. Like you'll achieve one thing, but then there's always a next, where like Celine was always like feeling like she could be satisfied like doing one thing, or maybe it was when she was talking about love, but she would be satisfied just like being in love when she mentions that. But like Jesse always had this like sense of constantly
There's
looking
more to do. There's
looking for
always more
more.
to do.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that whole aspect to him like will just constantly make him unhappy because he's never like he's achieved a lot. Like if you think about him
Yes.
now he's like a well-known author. He's working on another book, and he's just not like
Yeah, it's interesting. He started in the beginning as a huge cynic.
exactly, yeah.
So you see through the different stories that happened in the first movie, just things that were very telling of him being a cynic. You saw when they had that fortune teller. He didn't want to listen or
didn't wanna get a
trust
reading.
anything. He like mocked the whole situation. And mocked Celine for believing in any of it.
Yeah.
Even if it was just for the fun. And in the second movie, you see how unhappy he is in his current relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes across throughout the whole thing and how he just wants to rekindle what he had for that one moment. All it was that one moment.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything else. And he wrote a whole book about it.
Yeah.
He wrote a whole book about it. And then, like you mentioned, he writes a whole nother book about having sex after rekindling that relationship.
Yeah.
So you can see here he's constantly living in a reality and recognizing the imperfections of his reality.
Yeah.
I mean he's constantly living in some escape from reality.
Yeah, I think he's just constantly chasing a thing that he'll never have, like chasing those old memories, like that old like things that he's romanticizing that he'll never be that person again or experience that in the same way, and he's fucking himself over like
yeah. To an extent, yeah.
Yeah, I mean I do I like we're trash talking Jesse a lot, but I do like that he's consistent. Like he feels like you know, like we're talking about one of our friends. Like this is like somebody they have these traits, like they have these pitfalls, and like over time they're still falling into the same like core traits of who he is.
Which is why the ending was so unsatisfying.
Yeah.
You see the way that he responds to that situation is in a very pessimistic attitude of what life is. It shines light to what love can be, that love can be very difficult. It is very, very hard. But it's frustrating because you see that he dismisses the issue.
Yeah. Which is something I feel like he's done consistently throughout a lot of these movies, like not directly like
being just very indirect about things.
Yeah. And then doing like the whole like improv, like making up like a situation that's not real and just like having like a fake, like reading a fake letter to her not being like real.
Which is beautiful. Now we're seeing like those pieces connected.
Yeah.
He's a fiction writer. It makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, what else we got?
We can touch on the filmmaking a wee bit.
Oh, let me talk about this.
Go for it.
The removal and retrieval of clothes.
Oh, when she takes off her when we see her boobs?
We see Celine's titties in this movie.
I need to show you my notes. When that happened in all caps, I'm like, we see boobs.
So if you ignored the homework assignment, now you might actually want to go back and watch the movie.
Yeah, that's true.
We do see titties in this one. And it's interesting because you see that the removal and putting back on the clothes follows the timeline of their argument.
Yeah.
It follows a lot of that where you're seeing there's perhaps sexual tension growing. They're enjoying their time. Then a conversation comes up that builds up the tension in the room in a negative way. And though they were still arguing like with titties out and all for a while. I think, like you said, there was a point where it was going better, and then it just builds and like clothes were going back on. Think about every time you had like some terrible pillow talk, John, and your girlfriend like stormed out the room after having sex. You realize she was naked, and you have that scene in memory in your mind where like she's thrown on her panties, she's thrown on her pants and her shirt back on, and like she storms out the room and slams the door. That's exactly what we're seeing here.
Exactly my life.
Exactly your life every night.
But yeah, I mean that is the thing that I thought about that scene too is like we don't actually in all the other films we never see them have sex. We never see them get to that point of intimacy. So like when that happened, I in my head I was kind of like questioning like are we actually going to see them have sex or like will they just cut away because like they never show us. Not that I want to see that, but it's like I feel like the films really like exist around that, like the moments that are like genuine, not like the intimate like
Yeah.
banging.
Now that they're not 20 or maybe in their 30s, it's
Yeah.
still okay. Now we see them when they're in their 40s.
Yeah, and it sucks.
40, you can be beautiful.
Yeah, no, she was beautiful. I don't know how she looks now actually, but I mean, I wrote some stuff down for the filmmaking. I think the only thing I'll say is like there's so many long takes in this movie. It's crazy. That opening scene where they're in the car, it felt like it both felt like that was we just watched like a 15-minute like scene with no cuts, them just talking, but also like it didn't feel boring, like because they were having very like interesting conversation. But the camera is just right on them in the car.
It doesn't move.
It doesn't cut at all. So in my head, I'm thinking like, how many times did they have to record that and like go back down the street and drive down and record that, or are they just so good at that point that they're just like?
I don't think they're that good at this point.
Because like I don't know, like that shit's tough. That shit's tough.
Yeah, this movie has, I think you can break it down into like the 3 longest scenes where you have the car scene, you have the dinner scene, and then you have the hotel scene.
Yeah, that was the one I was going to touch on too. The whole argument scene, there's not a lot of cuts either. Like there's a lot of just long like argument, like moving around, but it's like the camera's just like on them, like in this moment. And I'm just like, for them to do this, like they're so skilled, like to do that, because it's like, and it's tough material that they're going
Talking
through.
about,
Yeah. And it's like long takes.
They were.
Yeah.
There are some like shorter scenes that were still pretty long.
Yeah.
Following like a similar film making style where you see like they're walking down that path towards the hotel.
Yeah.
That was a long conversation right there.
Yeah.
You have them Jesse with his fan base or like publisher friends, whatever, what have you. They have a lengthy conversation outside with a nice view.
Oh, you know what? I was gonna touch on that at the start of this, but like I like that so much. After they drive there, I like that point in the movie where you see Jesse and Celine interacting with like separate groups of the people there.
That's right.
And I feel like so rarely, well, yeah, definitely rarely in these movies, we don't really see them interacting with other people like for that long, like separated. So I feel like, I don't know if it was intentional, but like that really also was a form of showing how separated they are. Like they're showing their lives like in separated, almost just to say that like they are like they have this distance between them.
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah. I mean, I was like writing down so many stuff that it's like when people read like an author's book and they have all this analysis and the author's like, oh, I didn't really mean any of that. I don't know where you came, because like I wrote down stuff like, oh, like there's a scene where when they're walking outside, and it's the scene where Celine asked him if they were on the train together, would he right now would he like walk off with her? And there's a scene where they walk away and the camera like almost deliberately like goes down to their feet for like a few seconds, but like it shows them walking out of sync, and like in my head I'm like, it's just further showing their disconnect. But also they could have just
out of sync.
They could have just been walking out of sync that day. So I don't know, but that's mostly like the stuff that I wrote down watching this. But it's like stuff that it might not actually be intentional.
Yeah, I noticed that. That was a very good note that you found there. I would have never caught that. And that might be true. That one might be true. As
I really want to watch, because like I've tried to stay away from any video essays and like any like interviews from Richard Linklater.
See what happened.
Yeah, so I do want to now do that and like see what his like thoughts are, like if he ever talks about that stuff, because it's cool.
Yeah, they're just such minor details.
Yeah.
And how that might all come together in one film to really tell that story.
Yeah.
In a way that's not telling a story.
Yeah.
Well, here we are.
Here we are at the review portion.
At the wind down.
Oh, man.
What everyone has been waiting for. What have we rated this film?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'd love to. Before saying my rating.
Mm-hmm.
Or do I say my rating first?
Say your rating.
9 out of 10.
Generous.
Generous.
No, no.
So it's 9 out of 10.
Did you give the last one a 7 or an 8?
7,
7,
I think.
Yeah.
First was a 9.8.
Mm.
And I think this one's better than the first.
You like this one better than the first movie?
I like this one better than the first.
Wow.
But it's a 9 out of 10.
Oh, after this we can talk about our ranking of the movies. Actually, that would be cool.
Well, I think you already know.
Well, I know yours, but I'll say mine, I guess.
I mean, I did read your notes too, you know. But for the podcast, yes. So even better than the first. We have, I gave it a lower rating. I'll get into that. The whole trilogy now we have to reflect on. You get the whole picture of it. And you see, like we talked, how I mentioned earlier, how we now see all the connected pieces and how this becomes that outcome. In a non-narrative structure. Still love that part.
Yeah.
So while true to like what the film was going for, where it's being true to the characters and being true to what you expect Jesse and Celine to do, just from its moments of being so unpleasant to watch as part of the audience. That's why I brought it down a few points.
Yeah.
Or a few decimals. So like from a like very critical point of view, like maybe a 10 out of 10 right here or close to it. But from as an audience watcher of the film, it's just unpleasant to watch.
Yeah. I definitely felt the same way.
The tension is thick. The issues don't get resolved, and like the ending is a very unhappy ending.
Yeah.
Not an unhappy ending, but it's a little unhappy.
Yeah, I think it's definitely leaning towards being unhappy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I give it an 8 out of 10. I also agree. I think my score was brought down just because of how tough it is to watch. Though I have trouble thinking of any other way to do this movie though. Like I feel like I love the direction they took it. Like it feels so natural to how they would end up there. And the ending is tough to watch, but I like the ambiguity of it. But I'll also say like part of the reason it's a little lower in the score for me too is because it's tough to watch, and I don't think it's a movie that I could rewatch as easily as some of the other, or as the first one. Like I feel like this movie, to rewatch it, I would want to watch the other ones. Like I couldn't just like, let's say a couple months around, be like, oh, I'm bored, I'm gonna watch the third like Before Trilogy movie. Because I feel like this movie, to me, I would want to watch it after watching all the other ones again. Like if we ever do like another rewatch or something. I feel like the first movie to me holds such a, it has this like because they are younger, but it has like a youthful feel to it that I could watch that first movie like whenever. Like to me, that first movie reminds me of like Silver Linings Playbook, where I can pick that up and watch it like at any time. And it's definitely not as difficult to watch as this one.
Which I think is the great part about this is that you can't ignore the like emotional element to a movie, because this movie is darn near perfect to everything you can see critically.
Yeah.
But it's so much easier to rewatch the first one because it just has such a better emotional experience.
Yeah.
Than you have with this movie.
Yeah. And I'm curious too, like, how people who maybe have never seen the other ones would perceive watching this one. Like when this came out in theaters, I'm sure there were a few people that never watched the other ones, just like walked in and watched it or something. Or if you show it to a friend who have never watched these movies, like, do you think people would like not like this movie at all?
So it's funny you mentioned that, and I don't remember too much about the opinion, but when I was showing my friends back in Wisconsin, you met Alex.
Mm-hmm.
You met Alex. His girlfriend, which you didn't get to meet, watched it with us when I don't remember if I don't think they were dating at the time, but they were seeing each other. She watched it with us, and it was her first and only movie she watched from the Before Trilogy, unless she ever went back to the other first two.
Oh wow.
She definitely mentioned a lot and brought up a lot of great points about the movie after like we were winding down from watching the film, but I don't quite remember her like strongly disliking the film.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she did.
That's interesting. I mean, I guess like it's a different type of movie. Like that, it's not like a movie that you would want to watch on like, it's not like a romantic movie. I wouldn't call this movie like compared to the other ones it is just an interesting drama because it is mostly drama. I think this one,
It is.
like it's not a movie that you would want to watch with like a date or something. I mean, you could, but it's not the same as watching the first one.
It really isn't. So if I asked you to watch this with me as a part of a Tinder date, means I did not like you.
Or it's
speaking
like
to you.
a big test. Yeah. Oh, is there someone specific you're calling out?
Speaking
Right
to you.
now? Oh shit.
All 5 of those Tinder dates. Just kidding. Yeah, no. It's such a beautiful, unbeautiful film.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I think we mentioned it, but I also kind of hope that they don't do any more. I like where it ended. Now, I would be afraid to see more. I would be afraid to see what happens to these people's lives.
Well, you might come to find that Jesse finds a sense of happiness.
Yeah, I mean I think that would be an interesting take, like to finally see that, and maybe see Celine, having done all this work to pursue what she wants, be dissatisfied in her career or something.
Okay, come on. You can't be so pessimistic
Come
for
on.
one character.
We need the symmetry of them flipping positions.
You're just looking for it. I will say, though, if they were to do another film, I would see it that they get divorced.
Mhm.
And now that Jesse was able to experience what he was looking to experience back 9 years ago, of reliving that experience, recognizing that it wasn't possible and being able to accept it and find maybe a little bit of happiness.
Yeah.
Some level of happiness. Some baseline at least.
Yeah, or I guess at least like acknowledging maybe that you won't, because I think that's his thing too. He's constantly searching for more, but
That's what's
you reach a
bringing him
point
down.
where you acknowledge that like maybe there is not more. Like maybe you're just you don't have to be fully happy all the time, but you can just acknowledge that sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're not. Like you're different levels.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So Bella just came in.
Yeah, so I have my hot date with Bella. She's getting a little impatient. She's already licking me up and down my leg.
Oh wait, I was gonna say because I think I told you, but like
Okay.
Julia, who's the name of the actress?
Julia Delby.
Julie Delby, Delphi. I don't know. She had said that they had a script for a 4th movie, but she turned it down because she didn't like the direction they were going in. That makes me really curious about what the idea was. Because when I was thinking about where they could go, I kept thinking like if they kept them together, let's say after the end of this movie, they would probably just get into another argument. And I think a 4th movie would be very similar to the 3rd movie, like just further, maybe even worse arguments. But I feel like the divorce angle could be interesting, like seeing like where they end up and like them meeting each other again, maybe spontaneously, like running into each other like 9 years later again, like after being divorced. That could be interesting.
It could be.
But then like how would that end? I feel like it would be interesting to see like, or like how would you want it to end?
And that might be the challenge of the script.
Yeah.
To actually find, I mean, you don't get a story out of any of these because a story usually comes to a resolution, and we saw that there was no resolution in this film. You came to accepting the facts of what love is for them.
Yeah.
But if it was a divorce, you might find like some level of resolution with their happiness, but you're watching 2 people with the goal of now actually living separate lives. Having separate having separate lives. Do you want to force the film to actually have them together and have a dialogue?
Because I think like my thoughts on that is like if they did that, I think what I would want to see happen in their lives is like if they met again after being divorced, like find some sense of closure but not end up together. But I feel like maybe they just don't want to do another downer movie where they like bring them back. Just that's life.
No need.
Yeah,
there might not be any need to actually spend time together anymore.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of the answers, it's kind of implied, I guess, like by the end of this movie. Or I mean, you don't really know, but I think us knowing the character so much, right now we're talking about all the different things that can happen. So a new movie wouldn't feel even that interesting because like we're already expecting multiple different scenarios. And all the scenarios I think are not leading in any nice ending, perhaps.
Well, look, they might be able to make this a lot more real than we can ever imagine.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
who
too.
knows?
I
They
hope
can always come with another
I
surprise.
hope they bring it back. Richard Linklater, he said if they ever do more, it probably wouldn't follow the 9-year thing.
So maybe in 12 years.
Who knows? Yeah, 12 years. Yeah.
All right.
He has his hands full with like the 20-year movie he's producing, but maybe it'd be cool to see Jesse and Celine really old.
Could be.
Yeah.
Hopefully they keep their clothes on for that one.
They'll find some closure as old people.
Find some clothes.
Do you think, imagine us really like 30 years from now, like we're old and they come out with a 4th movie and the actors are really fucking old.
They did talk about in this film, like 48 years from the time that they were.
It was 56.
56.
Yeah.
They were going to be 98.
Yeah. Imagine that if they did that.
They could still be alive.
I would eat that up.
56 years from now, John. You know how old we will be? We would be fucking old.
Yeah. Yeah, we'd be really old. I don't know if I'd make it to the movie theater.
Come on. You'll continue on in good health.
But all right, man, that was great.
Another fun one.
Yeah.
Looking
at Bella.
We'll see you next week where we talk about dating again.
Oh,
yeah. Come back next week. We are coming back to the subject of dating. You guys cannot get enough of it, so we cannot get enough of talking about it.
Baby. Hey, baby.
Anyway, John, wind us down with some links.
shouldtalkmore.com.
Find our socials.
Find our socials. Find links to Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you want to subscribe or listen. YouTube, you can watch us. Our social links are on there. Sir Talkmore has an Instagram as well. We have a Twitter. Not much is going on there, but you might see some secret updates.
And if you enjoyed this episode, consider watching some others. We have, maybe this is our 19th, 20th episode by now. And so
no.
22nd.
I'm editing our 21st.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize we were
So
that
we
far
film,
along.
I think we have a 22nd already filmed. Might have a 23rd. This might be our 24th or 23rd. 23rd or 24th. That's crazy.
So, I mean, if you enjoyed this one, you probably enjoyed the first two.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this one and because of the conversation of love, go check out some of their dating podcast episodes. We talk about love.
Yeah, and you know what, guys? You can also just not.
Yeah, not do that. So definitely go listen to some podcasts. They listen to us. They listen. No, geez, they listen to us for an hour.
I don't want to tell people what to do.
Oh, we're not telling. You know, John. You know, if I was editing this, I'll just cut you right out.
Cut all this out.
Cut you right out.
This is like some bonus content. All right, I think it's time to sign off.
Take it easy.